Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm JD Hubner, and welcome to the Bold Lawyer Show. This is a live broadcast here. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube today. And this show is for you, the attorney, the perhaps law student, or someone in a big law, medium law, even small law, looking to maybe hang your own shingle. This is a live interview of a founder of their own practice. We're going to hopefully have John Hood of Hood Venture Counsel out of New York joining us backstage shortly, and we'll be able to get to some of the founder story, what it took to start and grow his firm, and hear all the good stuff about what's to come for his practice. So for those that are first-time listeners, I want to please give us a like, thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And you're welcome to join if you're listening live and ask questions as we go. I'm going to try to fire away and keep John on his toes as we go through this interview. But if you do see anything or you want to highlight anything that we discuss, add at all, you're welcome to join. Even if you're not an attorney, you're welcome to join as well. So we'll just be waiting here for a little bit for John. I sent him the link really late, so it's more my fault to join the live broadcast. And if you haven't seen our YouTube channel, go visit Bold Patents. It's at Bold Patents, and you can check out our previous interviews on the Bold Lawyer Show. I've also got another live podcast that I do, video broadcast called the Bold Inventor Show, and it's obviously not for attorneys, but you're welcome to join if you're listening. That show is catered more toward the inventor, the entrepreneur, the business owner, and that's predominantly where we've got inventors as guests on that show. We also have Matt Colseth as my co-host. We're missing Matt today. He's in Hawaii with his wife, enjoying the sun out there. I do see John popped in backstage, so good to have him. So without further ado, we'll bring John on and start our interview. Hey, John.
Hey, JD, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Good to see you. Sorry about the timing on that link.
That's all right.
Yeah,
No, it's all good. It's all good.
good to have you. Well, no one at this point listening live yet, so just you and I. But we are broadcasting on LinkedIn and YouTube. Anyone out there listening, welcome you to join in on the conversation. And just two attorneys chatting here. So, John, if you heard me, I did a brief intro, but the whole point of the show is to kind of get under the hood of if you will, of what it's like to run your own law practice. What motivated you to get started? What's it like been growing it, and where are we going from there? So that's kind of the whole point of it. It could be for someone who's a law student or someone who's maybe at a big law firm looking to maybe make the jump and go hang their own shingle. And that's the whole premise here. So it's been a while since we've chatted.
It has, yeah. How's everything? You guys are doing well.
Yeah, we're doing good. We I don't know how long it's been a while. So we moved out to Moses Lake, Central Washington.
Nice.
The family's out here. It's real quiet, less traffic, and enjoying running the virtual practice here at Bold. And
That's
you know,
awesome.
we've been steady. We're still getting patents.
Yeah.
Which is good for our clients, and we're staying in our lane there. Just patent prosecution. We've added one contract attorney. We've taken on some work doing biotech, medical device stuff. So that's
cool.
been fun. So and I see you've got your practice. Your name has changed a bit to Hood Venture Counsel, which is cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so I started. So this is our 10th. We're coming up on 10 years, kind of mid-March. We started in March 2014, and I really started as a solo. I was in-house at an ed tech company here in New York. I was their general counsel. Pretty small company at the time. I think they were 3-4 years old, something like that. And so, yeah, I started as, law offices of Jonathan Hood, basically just hung a
Right.
shingle. And then I've kind of built out, I mean, like you, I've built sort of a virtual firm. So it's myself, I have a fractional paralegal, fractional assistant, and then 3 of counsel attorneys, but we're all virtual, no real, physical office where we all meet. And so it's been good because I leverage those resources to run the practice and to provide services to clients that I don't personally provide.
Got it. You were quite efficient there. You told a really good story. I want to break it down a little bit more.
Totally.
So you said you started out, is that right? Doing in-house counsel for an ed tech startup, is that right?
That's right. So yeah, so I graduated law school in 2011,
Sure.
and I actually wanted to be a public defender. So the story of how I ended up here was not intentional at the outset. When I graduated, the economy was recovering from the 2008 crash. But if you recall, a lot of people went into law school. I started law school in '07, so I went, part time while I worked. So it took
2010 was
four years.
when I started. Yeah, I was like, the economy's down. I'm going to go to school, right?
Exactly. You wait it out, you come out, you're like, I'll be a lawyer, I'll make good money, and surely there'll be opportunities by then. And obviously the law firm jobs were few and far between, and especially because there were so many people coming out of school. And the other sort of unanticipated effect was that a lot of the legal aid jobs and other jobs where I could go work as a public defender, a lot of the bigger firms had basically furloughed people and paid them to go work at those places for a year. So they were essentially getting free work.
Oh,
So I was sort of trying to figure out what my next move would be. And I had a friend who had started this company, testingmom.com, which is still around. At the time, they were really focused on test prep for, in New York and a lot of other urban areas, especially, although I think it's become more common in suburban areas. Also, you have these kind of competitive, gifted and talented programs for really young kids, like 5, 6 years old.
right.
So they put together
Kaplan, right, is a pretty popular one, right?
yes, like all those sort of the Kaplan for, elementary, middle school tests. That was kind of their claim to fame. And I think since then I know they've branched out into tutoring, and I think they might be doing some of the more kind of typical test prep that you see for like middle and high school kids. But I ended up, this friend of mine, I was waiting on my bar exam results, and he said, if you want to come work for me and just make some money while you try to figure out your next move. I At first it was doing content review and kind of proofreading stuff. And then once I passed the bar and I was still looking for work, I was helping him, write contracts, kind of figure out how to bring employees on board. I was doing a little bit of trademark work. And that's where I discovered that I sort of enjoyed, there was a little bit of an entrepreneurial aspect to it, right? I was working for somebody else, but he was giving me pretty free reign, considering I was a brand new lawyer, to figure this stuff out. And I discovered that I really liked that part of it.
Right.
Um, and so I sort of pitched to him. I said, look, why don't you kind of have these legal needs? Why don't you bring me on as, my title will be general counsel. He certainly didn't have 40 hours a week of legal work that he needed, but I'll help you with the operational stuff and kind of standing up your teams. So it was sort of a hybrid, legal operational position, which was great experience, both in learning how to practice law, how to help run a business. And then when I started to just get an itch to do something else 2 or 3 years later, that was kind of what, yeah, that's where my firm originated from, was sort of the desire to provide that to other companies at similar points of
Love
their
that. So you
development.
actually
Yeah,
were part of a startup, and so you can
that's right.
and
That's right. Yeah,
be right
exactly.
there, empathetic to your current clients. Yeah, as you grew.
That's
Okay,
exactly right. Yep.
awesome. Okay, so but you know, you're saying after a few years, you still kind of wanted to get more clients, right? Was that it? It was just it wasn't quite enough full time.
Yeah, I mean, it was, so when I joined them, I was there for, I think I was there in some capacity for 3 or 4 years. Again, part of it before I was licensed as an attorney, and then part of it after I was licensed. But after that, after 3 or 4 years there, the business was doing well, but they were past that sort of initial frantic stage of trying to get everything up and running and kind of figure out, what they needed to worry about and what they didn't. And so this is when I discovered, again, kind of the inner entrepreneur. I was like, oh, I kind of missed the initial rush of that. And I was sort of trying to figure out, do I go try to work? I knew I didn't want to go work at a big firm. I mean, that was kind of out of my bloodstream at that point.
Right.
Do I want to go work at another startup? Do I want to go try to join like a boutique firm? And I ended up, I went to a few networking events. I had never networked in my life. To me, the idea of networking was that you go to some big room and pass your business cards out to everybody.
Right.
So I sort of, I tried to figure out what that looked like. And then I sort of just backed into, maybe I can start my own practice. I mean, I was 29, so I kind of felt like I was a little green to do it. But I also talked to a few people who were about my age who had started practices and been successful. So that was a big, motivator to say, okay, these guys did it. I can lean on them for advice. And if I have questions, and yeah, I ended up. I was lucky because I mean I wasn't working super long hours, so I worked 9 to 5, 9 to 6, and then in the evenings I would go network. I would do business for my private clients. I did that for about a year just because I had to, build a book of business from scratch. And then after started March 2014, and then April, I believe, of 2015 is when I, decided to leave my full-time job and do this full time.
I know it's going like 9 years ago, but can you
Yep.
list off? Can you remember what kind of networking groups you were a part of as you got into it? Was it kind of the traditional bar association stuff, or was it something else?
A lot of it back then, this was when Meetup was still a big thing. I don't know if that it probably is still around, but I would go to a lot of these like tech focused meetups, mostly in New York. And it was these huge, I mean, it was these like rooms with 400 or 500 people, a lot of them in their early to mid 20s passing out business cards.
Yeah.
A lot of people like me, right? A lot of service providers, financial advisors, accountants, and then a lot of you know, founders of kind of fledgling tech companies who were trying to push their product and meet other people. So
Okay.
it was a lot of that. And then if anyone is listening who is new to networking, those events are not as fruitful as you probably think they'll be, but you do get, I met a few good people, right, that I then went deeper with and developed relationships with. And that's really where I sort of found my launch point for building out a professional network.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's a really good point, actually, and that kind of
Yeah.
carries through. I bet it isn't always about
Yeah.
getting mass quantities of
Right.
connections. It's
Right.
those few that really can move big doors, kind of thing, or help you build relationships that will carry forward.
Exactly.
So that's a
Exactly.
good point.
Yeah.
I found that true for me too.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
fact,
Like
go ahead.
I was gonna say, you can almost trace like there was a guy I met there who I'm still friends with, who was he still is a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley, and he introduced me to his business partner who ran a networking group here in New York. I joined the networking group, right? I was in the group for a number of years. I obviously met a ton of people through there, and I'm not in that group anymore, but we keep in touch. I'm going to an event next month, and there are still other people that I work with from that. So it's sort of, if you go back, you can almost trace like that one, huge event, right? You meet countless people from that you wouldn't necessarily, plot it out if you were thinking ahead back then.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, recently, I mean, I doubt this was around, maybe it was, but I just became aware of this group called Provisors. Have
Yes.
you heard of Provisor? So I
I'm
just,
in
and
I'm in
I'm like,
supervisor.
where
Yeah.
has this been? And so I'm
Yeah.
finally dipping my toe in. And so I
Oh,
would,
cool.
yeah, there's a Pacific Northwest chapter. So I'm going to
Yeah.
be doing the interview with their, leader
Oh,
next
that's
month.
great.
So I don't know. You been a part of it?
Yeah, so it's funny because I had the same experience maybe a little over a year ago. It was like all of a sudden everybody was saying, oh, have you heard of Provisors? And I was like, no, I've never heard of that. And yeah, I joined. I mean, I've been a member for close to a year, I think. And it's good because I believe they started in Southern California, and they've been
Yeah.
really aggressively kind of moving to other geographies. So I think they just came to New York maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But it's great because you have your home group, and then you have just almost countless other groups that you can guest at and pop in on, and it's a good group of people. It's very high level professionals.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah, no, keep me posted.
Okay, I will. Yeah, and what's neat, I don't want to spend too much longer on this, but they do kind of have unique swim lanes, they called it, right? So if there's nobody
Yeah,
that's transactional corporate, you'll be the only one in that group
exactly.
of 35.
Right.
So
That's right.
that's cool. Let's see. So catch us up. So fast forward a couple years, let's say big moment for me was when I hired my first associate. Do you have any
Right.
associates on your team, and when did that happen?
That's a very good question. So no associates. I'm the only employee of my firm, so we're an S corp.
Okay.
I'm the 100% owner. What I have done over the years is use contract attorneys for to help me with overflow. And one thing I really started doing a lot during COVID, which I've continued to do, is partnering with other firms either to co-counsel on stuff or to basically refer matters to them while providing a seamless experience for my clients. So like an example of that is I have an of counsel attorney who's an employment lawyer. So if I have a client with an employment need, he can handle it under my engagement letter because he's of counsel of the firm. And same with, I have a commercial litigator who can do the same thing, right? Part of his practice is litigation. If a client has that need, and it's, in his wheelhouse, he can do that. So I have sort of mindfully scaled over the last few years that way,
If
but
you need a
not.
good patent attorney, let me know. Just kidding.
That's right. I have heard of a guy out your way who does that work.
So you're kind of
Um,
playing like a general counsel again, right? Fractional general. You're kind of shopping out, if you will. You're finding those specialties for
That's
your
exactly
client.
right. Yeah, and that's really sort of that's the model that I've kind of embraced. To your point is, for a lot of my newer clients, they have fairly straightforward legal needs, right? As far as legal needs can be straightforward. So setting up a company, issuing out employee equity, maybe they have, some privacy issues or something they need help with. But to your point, as a company gets bigger and gets more complex and has more involved needs, just like a full-time in-house counsel would hire outside counsel to file a patent or, litigate a lawsuit, your general counsel is not going to court and doing that, but they're managing it, they're keeping you updated, they're making sure um, all the kind of legal boats are rowing in the same direction. That's really for my more established clients. That's what I do, and I really enjoy that work because you're sort of quarterbacking the whole function, and it's kind of a throwback to my old job, right, where you're not addressing legal needs in a vacuum. You're making sure that it's fitting with their financial, their tax, their marketing needs, and if there's a risk, I mean, I think um, in that role, you can give your clients the option to be a little more tolerant of risk, right? So you say, this contract says that, you're going to indemnify them for XYZ, but you really want to land this deal. I'm comfortable with you agreeing to that, but you just have to know kind of what the downside, the worst case scenario that is. So a lot of it is kind of gaming that out with clients, which I enjoy.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
cool. It gives you a lot of ability to grow with your clients. Have you? I guess to
Yes.
that end, have you ever had any, call it, unfortunate success where a client outgrows you in your years?
Yes, for sure. I mean, I have helped clients raise money, which is great because obviously you bootstrap a company, especially if you have a decent amount of overhead for a number of years, and now you get this influx of cash, which is good for them. But it means either they're going to hire someone full time, often not, right? I mean, it's fairly unusual that you close like a Series A or B, and now you need a full time general counsel. But you might go use your investor's lawyer. Your investors might say, you really don't need legal reviewing X, Y, and Z. Why don't you hire, some VP of operations to review your contracts, that kind of thing. So there can be situations where you end up getting sort of almost downsized, right, as a result of that success. And that's kind of the nature of the game. For all of those, you have kind of new people coming into the pipeline who, either use you for one or two things, and then they decide to go do something else, or they, like you said, you grow with them, and sort of they become your next, one of your more kind of focused clients that you do a lot of work with.
Cool. Have you found you have kind of gravitated towards certain industries or technologies, um,
Yeah.
in your career?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So when I started, since I worked at an ed tech company, I really was almost solely focused on tech clients because that was where my expertise was, but it was also kind of where my that early professional network came from.
Right.
And then just, over the years, as I've met more people and been referred to different types of clients, these days, I would say 80% of my clients are some version of a tech company, and that could be a software product. Cybersecurity is a big industry these days. SaaS, software as a service, consumer packaged goods. I've had a number of clients in that space. E-commerce, retail. I've had a few like subscription boxes, which is kind of fun.
Mhm.
Um, Health, beauty, and wellness is almost like one that I feel like I kind of lucked into. I've just had a few clients in that space where they're doing, cosmetics, skincare, vitamins, that kind of thing. And then, there's always sort of the hot areas, right? So like one now is cannabis. I don't do any cannabis regulatory work, but I've had clients where it's a cannabis or a cannabis focused company, and again, they need help raising money or they need help figuring out a trademark. So I can help them with that stuff. And then again, that's one of those areas where there's a lot of regulatory work that goes into if you're opening a dispensary or something. Obviously, that's something where I'll bring in sort of a qualified attorney to help them with that part.
Yeah.
But you get those sort of hot industries, whether they're, I mean, I don't think cannabis obviously is not going anywhere. You also get like 2017, 2018, I got a lot of people who are trying to do like ICOs for Bitcoin and other
Yeah.
cryptos where
NFT stuff and yeah.
yeah, exactly. So,
Right.
that that was kind of one where it came and went fairly quickly in that iteration. But obviously, cryptocurrency is likewise not going anywhere. So I'm sure that we'll see more of that in the years to come.
Right. Right. We really have to talk about AI. I know that's in the news and has been for a long time.
Yes.
Is that one of those things where you're getting a lot of questions, or is it actually business? Companies are starting. Is it making up a percentage of your client base yet?
Yes, that's a great question. Yes, I mean, I have a number of clients who are dabbling in that space in one way or another, right? And
Okay.
you also get, it's funny, you get companies where, like, I talked to a friend of mine where the company changed their name to put AI in the name of the company, just because it's like you said, it's like such a buzzword now. But I
Right.
think it's almost one of those things where I look at I think almost every company that has some form of sort of technology, right? They're going to be using AI, kind of whether they know it or not. And so educating my clients on the upside to that, but also the risk and sort of the systems you need to put in place to protect yourself from just the inevitable risks that exposes them to. But I mean, definitely, I think that'll be something that we see more and more of in the next few years.
Right, right. And with regard to your practice, for us, we're looking. In fact, we're kind of working with one company as a beta test. We're doing
Mhm.
things like automating some drafting or
Yeah,
research, and we're trying not to put our head in the sand, kind of a thing. It's
yeah,
like you gotta at
yeah,
least dabble and get involved, even if it's uncomfortable. Have you
yeah.
found ways to do that in your practice at all?
Yeah, so I actually did at the end of last year, I sort of tried out and then purchased a subscription to an AI, research platform, which basically is, I mean, I find it to be pretty robust and pretty user friendly. It'll do legal research, right, the same way that you use, you and I back in the dark ages, we would go sit there at Westlaw or Lexis and type in all the prompts or whatever. Now you tell it, go find me a case that says XYZ. It can, if it's out there, it'll probably find it. Obviously you have to check the work and make sure that it's feeding you correct information and giving you the right thing. But um, it has good sort of capability in that area, and it also can do an initial pass at a contract, right? So you tell it, please go and make review this contract to make sure that it says XYZ, or that the confidentiality clause is mutually binding. Again, it'll redline the contract. Obviously you want to go in and check and make sure that it did it correctly, but there is a lot of opportunity to save time and save money using AI, I think, for lawyers. And given that it's kind of self-taught and it should continue to learn the more it's used, I think in the next few years that there will be a lot of opportunity. Obviously, some risk there too, right? Like when will an AI software be able to draft a contract for somebody and they cut us out completely? I mean, I even saw early on, I did a lot of incorporations for people. Like, I want to set up a Delaware C corp and issue stock. Pretty early, like 2017, 2018, I stopped seeing a lot of that work because there are services like Clerky. I think Stripe has a tool that does that. And it's basically, I mean, I think it's mostly AI based. You
Yeah.
put in the number of shares, the name of the company, it files the paperwork, it spits the documents back out. you really don't need a lawyer for a basic corporate setup. I mean, if you have a more complex structure, you should. But
Yeah.
so I think we'll see more and more of that where you have technology providing an opportunity and also a challenge for us in the future.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Really good stuff. Do you mind mentioning the name of that tool? Is that available? Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Case Text, or it's called CoCounsel, and it's by Case Text.
Co-counsel
Yep.
by case.
Yeah, I really like it.
And that's where AI research, you're saying.
Yeah, research. I think it's not contract drafting. It doesn't do, but research, contract review. Contract sort of like comparison. Like you could put two contracts in and have it compare them. I think it'll do that for you also.
Cool. I tried putting in the comments here. Is there a hyphen? Is it co-counsel? Is that close enough?
I think that's right. Yeah, I think it's just one word. Yeah.
Sounds good. We got one attorney on here, Kendon. He's been with on our show before.
Oh,
I've
cool.
used AI to look. He's another patent attorney, I believe, to look through spec documents to create concise tables of keyword searches for 103 violation rebuttals. Sweet. There you
That's
go.
amazing. Yeah.
So 103 is an obviousness. So when you have an invention that's filed, examiner will say, you know what? Even though this is new, I put two and
Right.
two together, and your invention's obvious. Sorry, Mr. and Mrs.
Got it.
And so we
Yeah.
can have rebuttals, office action responses. That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
That makes sense, actually. Yeah, I could see it. I could see it being a good tool for that. I mean, there's also have you ever used Markify?
I've not. No.
So they've been around a while too. I've been using them. I want to say maybe 6 or 7 years, but they are again, essentially an AI trademark company. I use them mostly for trademark searches. So, you want to run a comprehensive search for a term. I think you can include like 5 or 6 classes. It'll give you a pretty detailed report, and it kind of ranks them from, you know, kind of most likely to cause a confusion, rejection, down to less of a risk. But it's a good report, and it gives you an idea of what's out there, and to your point, kind of at a fraction of the cost of what you would pay one of the more established platforms to do it. And I think they do some like trademark monitoring and stuff. I haven't tried that out yet, but they're kind of building out their portfolio.
Cool. All right. All right. Well, we got a few minutes left.
Yep.
Just a couple actually. So you're number 10. Congratulations, by the way. 10 years in business. That's a big deal.
Thank you. Thank
That's
you.
all.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the question is, I suppose, are you where you want to be? Right? Are you content, kind of
Yeah.
staying small, keeping it all, or are you wanting to grow? And if so, how?
Yeah, it's a good question, and that's kind of at least for me, that's been the through line, right, of since I started is, how much do I want to grow? How fast do I want to grow? How do I want to get there? And again, just like with our clients, how much risk do you want to take on to do that? How aggressive do you want to be? So, we have had I mean, we were very fortunate during COVID only because I personally don't do any litigation. So, when everything shut down in March of 2020, I think looking back, I was down a little bit Q2 of 20, but really not a whole bunch. So I was very, very fortunate. Um, and since then, I have been trying to again kind of scale out the team, mostly using 1099s and of counsel relationships.
Right?
But one of my goals for the next 10 years, certainly, and hopefully sooner, is that the last time I took a vacation and didn't touch my laptop, right, for a week was my honeymoon, which just happened to also be close to 10 years ago. So, I'm,
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I'm not getting any younger. My wife and I love to travel. We love to go away. I typically, a couple times a year, we will take a vacation, and I will mostly not work. But when you are sort of the point person, it's inevitable that, I can't kind of not check my email for a day, right?
Yeah.
So that is my goal. I mean, whether I want to build some behemoth firm, I don't think that's really my, I just don't think that fits my kind of approach or my personality, right? I could probably do it. I don't think it would be that enjoyable for me, but um, I am at a point where I'm always looking for ways to scale and collaborate with other firms, other professionals who can help me, like you said, whether that's an associate, whether it's kind of a partner. I'm always open to those opportunities, and I know so many good attorneys, not only who I work with, but people that have taught me kind of their own tricks of the trade, right, in the way that they've grown their practices. So I love taking lessons from other attorneys, especially, but any other professional who started their company. There are no two identical companies and no two ways to scale, which I love.
Love that too. That's a great point too. You don't necessarily have to only mentor and network with other law firm owners.
Right,
Any business owner, if they've
right,
been around for a while, they've got a few things they can share with you. Well, you're
for
super
sure.
humble, John. What you've done is impressive, to
Thank
be
you, man.
sure, for growing a firm. And I want to ask this. I ask our guests on the show, if anybody's watching now or after the fact would like to reach out to you, can I send
Yeah,
out an email address? Is that something?
absolutely. Please do. And yeah, like you said, I mean, I'm happy to talk to anyone who, so, certainly needs legal help. If I can't help, I can help them find somebody who can. But also, like you said, any lawyers who are, thinking about starting a practice, coming out of law school, working at a firm, doing something where they're looking to make a move, I'm happy to offer my 2 cents, for whatever that's worth, depending on their situation. But I, thank you for the invite. I love that you're doing this. I think it's
Yeah,
such a good idea. And likewise, I mean, you have built a really impressive firm, and I think your brand is so, I see your brand everywhere, and it's just so indelibly associated with you and the way that you work, that I think it's great.
I appreciate that so
Yeah,
much. Thank you for being a guest on our show and for being willing to hang out and chat with so anybody
yeah.
that has questions. We'll have to have you back on here in 10 years, maybe before then, and
That's
you'll
right. That's
be
right.
you're much more
I'll,
relaxed, right? Things will be
I hope so.
smooth.
I'll have a drink in my hand, and I'll be
Yeah,
under a beach umbrella somewhere, hopefully.
love that, John. Well, take care. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thanks a lot, man. Take care.